As the new trading week kicks off, some of the major averages continue to hit new intraday record highs. Joining me on the trading floor is Peter Cardillo of First Standard Financial. Peter, thanks for joining me on this Monday. Well, first and foremost, we're seeing some of the equity averages, including the NASDAQ, S&P 500, and Russell 2000, hit new intraday highs. But given that there are all these interest rate as well as Fed policy and expectations for policy changes from President-elect Donald Trump, are investors reading too much too soon into this?
Well, there's no question. We're finally seeing a catch up by the S&P and the Nasdaq. In fact, the Nasdaq registered a new record high at the opening today. But I think for now the market is basically looking forward, and the fear of higher yields and the stronger dollar is being put to the sidelines. And I think the reason for that is because they're expecting Donald Trump to be able to put in his tax plans, which would be somewhat bullish for stocks.
And Peter, speaking of expectations, we have the OPEC gathering at the end of this month on November 30th. In today's session, we're seeing crude oil futures back above $47 a barrel. But what do you expect to see from that meeting?
I expect that OPEC will come up with a deal, and over the weekend we heard that Iraq and Iran finally coming up with some ways to participate with the rest of the cartels group, and as a result of that, I think we're going to see oil prices firm up. I think we will see oil prices get north of $50 and stay there. That doesn't mean that the trouble for the market is totally erased, but eventually we will see a rebalancing of the supply and demand problem.
And Peter, I do have to ask you about what's going on in Europe. We've been placing a lot of focus on what's happening here in the U.S. given the presidential election. But we had a presidential election expectations for France, and we did have an upset there. In Germany, we had Angela Merkel announce that she'll be running for another term. And we do have the referendum coming up in Italy. So how are you weighing all those expectations?
I think the most important thing to look at now in Europe is the referendum in Italy. Of course, Italy, like some of the other countries of the EU, need structural reforms. And if this particular referendum is rejected, then I think it's back to the old policies, and that's going to be somewhat murky for Europe in general. I think all eyes are on Italy right now.
Okay, Peter. Well, thank you so much for joining me at the beginning of the week, and have a great happy Thanksgiving.
You too.